Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In this video we're again looking at our Grape XT desktop PC, and I thought it would be nice to go over not only the applications which were installed on this PC, but in this video focus on the various games which were installed on this XT class machine, because I find it really interesting to see what kind of games people were playing on these machines. I mean, we are talking about, somewhere between 1985 and 1987, 88, something like that. This is the time frame where this machine was heavily used, and I thought it would be nice to go over all of the games which were installed on this machine. And there are a lot of games here, so we're going to be going over all of them, and we're going to go over the fact that, given the hardware, the limited hardware of this machine, the 10 megahertz CPU, the monochrome monitor, the limited graphics card. I thought it would be nice to see what the capabilities were with this machine and what type of games people were playing back in the day. So take a seat, relax, and enjoy some mid-80s MS-DOS gameplay. Now, a lot of the games that I'm going to show you only work on a color graphics adapter or a CGA video card. That's a video card capable of displaying up to 4 colors in normal resolution, as it supports various graphics modes. Now, a CGA card in its default graphics mode, being 320 by 200, can display up to 4 colors simultaneously, and it can choose those from different palettes, where this particular palette that you're seeing here with a magenta and cyan and black and white kind of high contrast colors were very popular back in the day and became synonymous with CGA. Now, the card in this computer doesn't support CGA, and it doesn't have a color monitor, so we can't play CGA-based games. Now, when the IBM PC was released, you basically had 2 options when it came to video cards or video adapters. You had the color graphics adapter, or the CGA card, with the color scheme that I just showed you, or you had the monochrome display adapter option, or the MDA card. And you could even have both of these video cards in the same computer at the same time, hooking up to 2 monitors for software that supported it. So here we have the motherboard of the original IBM PC, and just on top of that we have the monochrome display adapter, which is text only, albeit in high resolution. And here we have the color graphics adapter, which was able to display graphics and up to 4 colors at the same time. So if you didn't have CGA, you were basically stuck with the latter MDA card, which was a video card that wasn't capable of displaying any graphics. It could basically only render text using a library of predefined characters. It was pretty high resolution, higher resolution than CGA, but it was limited to text, making it pretty useless in terms of playing games. Now, obviously, it was possible to create simple text-based games, as a lot of games were back in the day, ranging from these old school text-based adventure games or puzzle games like Tetris that you're seeing here. So using some clever techniques, it was as if your computer was able to display graphics, but it was obviously very limited because it could only use that predefined library of characters, and it had to make do with that. Another example of a text-based game is this basic demonstration program called Defender, a simple game written in BASIC just to illustrate that you can use this kind of text mode to create games. But this computer also doesn't have a monochrome display adapter, so if it doesn't have a CGA card and it doesn't have an MDA card, then what do we have here? Well, what this computer does have is a Hercules compatible graphics card, capable of playing games that support this Hercules mode, like this PGA Tour Golf from Electronic Arts. And a Hercules compatible graphics card adds a bitmapped graphics mode to what otherwise would be a very basic text-only monochrome display adapter. So Hercules became the de facto standard in the PC space as it was able to support high-resolution text modes as well as graphics support, something that the CGA card couldn't do. The CGA card could do graphics, but at a lower resolution. And you also didn't need one of those fancy, expensive CGA monitors for a Hercules graphics card because it was perfectly capable of displaying graphics in monochrome mode. And what would you rather play? A game like this? Or this? Now Hercules was so popular that many games supported it out of the box, giving you the ability to see graphics on a monochrome display, which was a very big deal at the time. And so you had lots of games that supported various graphics modes. For example, here you can see the same game, PGA Tour Golf, in CGA mode with its 4 colors. Now here you can see the other CGA color palette that the standard had to offer. I mean, it is pretty in your face. It's not the most enjoyable experience, but at least it beats a monochrome display. And just how does this game translate on our Grape PC? Well, doesn't look half bad, I think. I like the amber color scheme of the Texan monitor. I'm a big fan of that. And it's definitely playable. I mean, you can see the graphics just fine. It does take a little bit of a while to load, but yeah, this is pretty high resolution stuff for that time period. The computer is a bit slow as this is a game from 1990, so you can see that it really needs to push its limits to render this little animation here. But once you get in the game, it's definitely playable. Providing you know a thing or two about golf, that is, which I obviously do not, as you can see here from this footage. But obviously you were out of luck if you had a game that only supported CGA. Because as soon as you start the game, you get the notification that Paratrooper does not work on a monochrome display adapter or the MDA card. And this is one of those games that doesn't have a Hercules mode, so you are limited to CGA. But luckily we can fix this because we can simulate CGA on our Hercules compatible card. And using SimCGA, we can make Paratrooper think that it is running on a CGA system, while in fact it's just running on this Hercules compatible card, which is not CGA compatible. Now you may notice that there's a little bit of ghosting going on as we are simulating CGA in software. It's not going to be as fast as native CGA. But yeah, I personally think it looks pretty good on this Hercules compatible card. It's not the most graphically intense game, obviously, but yeah, still a lot of fun, and at least you're able to play it on this hardware, so that's really nice. Another game that was on this PC was Bushido, The Way of the Warrior, a fighting game from 1983 where you control this character here using the numlock, and then you can use either F2 or F4 to put it in kick mode or in punch mode, allowing you not to only navigate from and to your enemy, but also deal some damage. The controls do take some time getting used to because it's very unnatural to use, to switch from normal running mode to kicking mode using the function keys. But yeah, this is the CGA version here, so it uses the 2 different color palettes from CGA. So you have the magenta, cyan, and also you have this green-red color palette. Both of them are shown. And if we run this in a simulated CGA mode on our Grape PC, the game looks like this. So yeah, definitely playable. Again, there is some ghosting going on because we are not running native CGA here, and the game doesn't support any Hercules mode. But yeah, I can definitely see somebody playing this in 1985. And to give you a feel on how it looks on the Grape machine, here on the beautiful Texan Amber monitor using SimCGA, the game looks like this. So yeah, it runs a little bit slower than it did on DOSBox, so yeah, should make the game easier in fact to play. You can see the ghosting going on, but yeah, it's definitely playable. And you know, there's still a big difference in terms of, you know, overall experience when you see a game like this running on an actual PC, on actual hardware, versus, you know, on DOSBox. Yeah, big difference. But luckily we have tools like DOSBox at our disposal to, you know, use as a kind of a playground to test these old games without actually resorting to old hardware all of the time, because that would be very inconvenient. Another game that was on this PC was Checkers, or Dammen as it's called in Dutch. Developed for MS-DOS in 1988 by C.A. Reedijk, which is a Dutch developer. And apparently this was one of the best-selling games in Holland during that time period. And this is a game that also runs fine in simulated CGA mode, as it's not the most, you know, graphically intense game out there. Another true classic is Digger from WindMill Software, released in 1983. Now, this is a very popular game. I think a lot of people played this game if they had a PC back in the day. A CGA game, very colorful, kind of a puzzle game, a little bit arcade. So this is one of those games that doesn't play well with simulated CGA, and that's due to the fact how the developer addresses the screen and puts the game in CGA mode. It does that in a very particular way that doesn't allow this game to run with SimCGA. In DOSBox, all you get is a black screen, but on the Grape PC, you can kind of see Digger running here, but it's not showing any graphics at all. You just get this kind of, you know, garbage text here on the screen. FlightMare is another classic, or cult classic perhaps, that I found on this PC. Now, this is a game which is extremely difficult to play. It has this weird game mechanic where the screen is divided in two halves. You have this side view and top view, and you have two sets of controls, the numlock and the WSAD keys, to control both the, you know, the side view and the top view, making it very difficult to play, especially in the higher levels. It's just one of those, dare I say, obscure games which has different modes of playing, because sometimes you get into this overview screen and then you jump right into the action with the side view and the top view. And it was really confusing when I started the game on the Grape machine itself, because I didn't know the game, and I actually thought that there was something wrong with the simulated CGA, because initially the thing that I saw on the screen didn't really make a whole lot of sense until I got to know the game a little bit better. So yeah, as you can see here, you not only need to align the side view but also the top view. You need to make sure that the plane is aligned with the motorcycles on both levels before you will be able to destroy them. So yeah, probably need to give this game a couple of more hours of gameplay before I get any good at it. We also had a chess application here, which was created by this chess master. The original version that was on the Grape PC got corrupted, but I was able to download it and ran absolutely fine. It's a CGA based game, but it also runs in Hercules mode. And this is also one of the games that got corrupted on the Grape hard drive. As soon as I selected Hercules here, the game would hang. But you can still find versions of this chess game by Psion, developed by Richard Lang, online. And now all that's left for me to do is learn how to play chess. Love how the computer takes its time to render the chess board here. Other games even take it one step further. For example, Mahjongg, this Chinese puzzle game. This here is running on EGA, which is able to display 16 colors at once. So the developer of this Mahjongg game basically said that, you know, CGA is too low resolution and too few colors. I'm just going to do it in EGA, meaning that I have 16 colors at my disposal. But of course, the game will only run if your computer has an EGA card. Now, luckily, the developer of Mahjongg, Nels, decided to also provide a Hercules version of the game. So by just adding a command switch to the executable, you could launch Mahjongg in Hercules mode. And that basically means that we are able to run this on our Grape PC with our Hercules compatible video card. And because it's pretty high resolution, it's able to display the board in pretty high detail. Obviously, you lack the color, but it's still definitely playable. So let's see how this looks on our Grape machine. We see the Mahjongg splash screen here, and then slowly but surely it is rendering some tiles. And when you start the game, it becomes very obvious that, you know, the computer is really pushing it in order to render this this board here. It takes a bit of a while to display all of the tiles. But yeah, again, really cool to see this game, pretty high resolution on the Taxan amber colored monitor. And yeah, I can definitely see people playing this for a while on this computer. So yeah, pretty cool. Next up, we have SopWith, a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up by BMB Compuscience, released in 1984, where you control this little plane here, and the goal is to shoot various buildings on the scenery. Again, typical CGA game. When running this in a simulated CGA, you do see a lot of the ghosting because it is moving a bit faster than the other games. Although when you run it on actual hardware, like on the Grape machine, the ghosting isn't all that obvious just because the game runs pretty slow. Sokoban is another classic that was found on the Grape PC from Spectrum Holobyte in 1984. It's kind of a puzzle game where you're this kind of factory worker that needs to shuffle around packages in different floor layouts. And yeah, pretty fun game to play. Looks pretty good in CGA, if you don't get nausea from the CGA colors, that is. So you just pick a certain level, you get the floor plan, and then it's time to start shuffling these boxes around in order to get all of the boxes into their designated area. So yeah, it takes a little bit of planning and looking around to see how you will start stacking them, because obviously you don't want to get stuck and you still want to be able to move all of the packages around. So yeah. Takes a little bit of planning and foresight in order to get them to their location. So let me just fast forward this one. And when running the game in CGA simulation, you get a little bit of ghosting, but yeah, definitely playable. And I kind of like the amber glow of the Taxan monitor here on the Grape PC on this Sokoban splash screen. I think it's yeah, just a cool way to experience these games on the actual hardware. Runs a tad slower than it did on DOSBox, so yeah, that's one of the convenience, obviously, of using something like DOSBox, that you aren't really limited by the CPU speed of the actual hardware here, because you can definitely see that it runs a tad slower. Loderunner, another classic by Doug Smith, 1983. Iconic game, definitely meant to work on a CGA. It doesn't have a Hercules mode, but with simulated CGA we can run this game just fine on a Hercules compatible card. And this just goes to show that how much of a lifesaver these Hercules compatible cards actually were. Not only did you have the Hercules compatible games that you could run natively in Hercules mode, but you also at least had the option to simulate CGA on these cards. And you know, it definitely was a viable option back in the day if you wanted to play these types of games on a computer that didn't have a CGA card. And of course, no game list is complete without Pac-Man. This one here from Orion Software, released in 1982, runs perfectly fine in simulated CGA. So yeah, I think Pac-Man game should have color, obviously, but still lots of fun to play this, even in monochrome mode, basically. Now this is the Pac-Man faulty executable with the ghosts wandering through the walls. But yeah, obviously it looks a lot better in CGA mode, as you can see here. But yeah, nonetheless, I think it's pretty cool that this runs in simulated CGA also without too many issues. And finally we have Space Commanders 2, a CGA-based game which runs in monochrome, so it doesn't use any of the 4 colors that it has at its disposal. So yeah, black and white. Also runs fine here in SimCGA in DOSBox, no issues there. And also on our Grape PC, on our Taxan monitor and the Hercules display adapter, no issues whatsoever. And yeah, with that we've come to the conclusion of this video where I showed you a couple of games that I found on this Grape PC. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel, giving it a thumbs up and leaving a comment in the comment section below. I really hope to see everybody in the next video. I wish you all the best for the remainder of 2021. Wish you all the best for 2022 and hope to see you then. Bye bye.